Hey guys, Brady here with an Out of Breath Arm Sore Packer Minute, the show where I walk around the neighborhood talking about the Packers and you watch to see if I get totaled by a semi. Well, I tried to go live with the Out of Breath Arm Sore Packer Minute and it was an epic fail because my data plan apparently isn't 4G or whatever, and it basically dropped it. So I'm recording this now, and as I mentioned before, if you caught the 3 minutes of live attempt, I'm pretty pumped. I've got my family night tickets coming. Packer football is getting moved up because we have an extra preseason game. Of course, there will be much angst, fear, and trepidation over that extra preseason game, and we will all be hoping that, like Jordy Nelson, they just keep him in a lockbox. But I'm still pumped because it just means like everything. Training camp is getting moved up. The first preseason game is getting moved up. Family night is getting moved up. It's just that much closer to football. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready for some football. We saw Clay Matthews is going to be in the new Monday Night Football music video, so that's kind of cool. But mainly, I've been thinking a lot about training camp, and I just can't wait to see these guys get back out on the field and begin to see the maturity of the development of, guys like Jeff Janis that came on last year, Jared Abbrederis, see where he's at. Of course, we've got Davante Adams that is, he's garnering a lot of talk, mostly in a disappointed cast. But at the same time, the guy has some pretty serious talent. So I know that you can't teach a kid to catch once he gets to the pros. But I also at the same time think that he knows he's fighting for a job right now. And last year, when you hand a kid like that something like they did last year, it doesn't usually end well. And I think this year he knows it's time to perform. And I'm actually one of those. I'll put this out there because I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I think Davante Adams is going to be just fine. I thought Mason Crosby was going to be just fine the year after he went below 80% or only hit 80%. I forget, it was real close to 80%. I was right about that. I could be wrong about this one, but I will say I think Davante Adams is going to be just fine. Now, me on the other hand, I hear a dog that wants to kill me, But yeah, so the wide receiver group is going to be under a lot of scrutiny, but I think the read I get from most of you guys is there's just a lot of excitement because when you look at a wide receiver core, if you really want to judge it, you want to look at the number 3 receiver. If you're really strong at the number 3 receiver spot, then you're going to put a lot of pressure on defenses, and that's exactly what the Packers are going to do. They've got, 3 choices of guys, and that's not even with James Jones still floating around if he were necessary. But we've got 3 guys floating around at that 3rd receiver spot that probably could be 2s on a lot of other teams, and 2 of which are pretty unproven. Abbrederis and Janis are still considered unproven, mostly though just because the Packers have kind of held them back as developmental players to some extent, and they were pressed into service last year because of the injuries. So it's pretty dang exciting at that 3rd wide receiver spot. I just can't wait to see how that shakes out, because I think either way, however it shakes out, we're going to be very good at that position, and that will put so much pressure on the defense, just that fact alone. On the other hand, there's also this big deal about Eddie Lacy, and I'm kind of glad he didn't drop like 25 or 30 pounds. It sounds like it's more like 15 or 20, which to me says that he was doing more than just trying to shed pounds. He was trying to change his body composition. Body composition is everything. I could care less about his weight. All these guys have to, obviously he's not going to be, if he goes, $150 dripping wet, he's not going to be able to play in the NFL in the first place. But the concern is not the weight, the pounds and kilograms. The concern is the body composition being correct. This will help his joints stay healthy. It'll help him stay healthy. It'll decrease his chances of injury, and he won't be sluggish on his feet. He was a little slow on his feet. Even in the Chicago game, right off the bat last year, you could tell it wasn't quite the same Eddie Lacy. So we could see a real spring back from Eddie Lacy coming into a contract year. Everything, again, when a guy is up against the wall, that's when they have their best seasons. For some people, that's because they're greedy and they just know, you know, I'm just playing for a big contract, so every time the contract comes around, I play. For Eddie Lacy, I don't think that's the case. I don't think anyone out in Packer Nation thinks that Eddie Lacy is that kind of guy. He had an off year, there's no doubt about it. He basically was not in shape, wasn't ready to play at the level we needed him to play at. He recognized it, he manned up, and he is, for all intents and purposes, he looks great. And I can't wait to see this guy. Remember how exciting, I mean, it was just 2 years ago, this guy was so exciting as a rookie. And I think he's going to be back to that. I think long term, it's going to be good for him too. You know, just health-wise, it's going to be good for him. Career-wise, it's going to be good for him. This team is, you know, Mike McCarthy's the kind of head coach. He will make no bones about where you're at, what you need to do. But at the same time, if you do it, he puts that as water under the bridge, and I like that about him. He doesn't hang on to stuff like that. Eddie Lacy, I think, will be fine as well. So, of course, on the defensive side of the ball, I think a lot of us are looking, number one, for me, I'm actually looking for development out of our young DB group, who played fantastically last year. But also, I want to see Gunter get in there and see what he can do. He has been turning some heads this offseason and showed a lot of promise. And I do think it would be interesting if our Packer defense could have some kind of shutdown, man-up corner for a change. You know, we're basically a nickel-dime defense. But we could, again, put pressure on offenses. So then the other big storyline for training camp is going to be Clay Matthews moving back to the outside and who's going to fill that gap. I'm going to have my eye on that for sure. We'll keep you up to date on it as much as we can. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. And I didn't think that they had like the answer on the roster at the time, but I think the combination of Barrington, Ryan, and then, you know, we drafted a couple linebackers. I don't know. I like Blake Martinez, and I think he may be one that he could get out on the field for passing downs if he shows a little more promise. Jake Ryan really did struggle from time to time. He struggled from time to time in pass protection, which is really always a struggle for linebackers. It's one of the matchups that every offensive coordinator is trying to get. They're trying to get that matchup, and there's a reason for that. But at the same time, Jake played pretty well overall. There was a play or two where he was terrible. But you know, that has a tendency to happen in your rookie year, and it does have a tendency to happen beyond the rookie year for linebackers that are, you know, offensive coordinator are trying to throw them into bad matchups. And so these things happen, but I do think I'm more positive about that inside position in terms of linebacker. I'm more concerned in terms of nose tackle. You know, we've got, was it Pennell that's got four-game suspension, and we have no more B.J. Raji. B.J. Raji had a good year last year, and the nose tackle is the linchpin of the 3-4 defense. Fortunately for us, we are basically a sub-package defense, so, you know, we'll be fine, but we don't want to see teams chewing up yards with inside rushes on us right off the bat. That just, everything hinges on stopping the run first. Sorry about that glare. I'll try and get that out of there. And if we go back to being incapable of stopping the run, it's going to be trouble. But we'll see. Can't wait to see Eddie back. I'm very glad that we have James Starks as well signed back on. I think that's extremely important. I posted about that. Yeah, and can't wait for training camp. So let me know what you guys think. What are you looking forward to? Who do you have your eye on? Are you pumped? Are you worried? Are you worried about that extra preseason game? How are you feeling? And I will sign off now because the sun is coming over my shoulder and it's probably glaring the crud out of you guys. And we'll catch up with you again soon. So have a good Wednesday. We'll see ya. Go Pack.